Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hollywood Joe from Hollywood's World of Sports, coming to you with a special edition of Hollywood's Hot Topics. The wrestling world has been a buzz over the last week. Many different things going on, like the new relationship between Impact Wrestling and AEW, Kenny Omega appearing on Impact, and just a lot of other wrestling related topics out there, but there's one that I want to focus on tonight. And it all started last week, and I feel like it's continuing this week, and it's going to continue into the future. Last week on AEW Dynamite, Sting made his debut in AEW, and he was dressed in full wrestling gear, face paint, the coat, the baseball bat, the whole works. And apparently he has signed a multi-year deal to work for AEW. And I gotta say this, if it was just appearances and like a managerial and mentor type role, like Arn Anderson and Jake Roberts and Tully Blanchard are doing, I would be okay with it. I would have no problem with it. Hell, he could even be the guy that makes matches and sets things right when they go wrong, and whatever role you could find for him. But there has been multiple reports suggesting that he will be wrestling in tag team matches, cinematic matches, any match where they deem safe for him to wrestle. And I got to tell you, I personally do not agree with this. I know Sting wrestled his last match 5 years ago against Seth Rollins. He broke his neck in the match. And, I get that that is not the way Sting wants to go out. I get it. I totally understand that, barely able to be walking on your own 2 feet in your last match is not how you want to be remembered. And I get that it's 5 years ago, and people heal and get better with, with time to recovery. I mean, look at it. Daniel Bryan got better, and he's come back just as great as he was before. Shawn Michaels did the same thing. Left in 98 due to a back injury. Came back in 2002, was better than ever before. Edge, even most recently came back after 10 years and looked really good in his comeback. But the thing of it is all those guys that I mentioned were in their 30s and early 40s when they made these comebacks. Sting is 61 years old, and some people might call me hypocrite because I've said that age is just a number. It's about your mentality and, your mindset, and I still stand by that statement. But is Sting really that desperate to risk his health, to risk being paralyzed? Because quite frankly, you know what? A neck injury, once you have a neck injury or neck surgery, you're never really quite the same. You got to be extra careful, and you got to adjust what you're doing, especially in professional wrestling. Sting is 61 years old. He has nothing left to prove. He has nothing left to gain. He has nothing left to try to do. And I get that he hated his WWE run. I get it. And I'm guessing he probably wanted to wrestle more matches in WWE. But I do not want to see Sting tarnish his legacy and not be able to be the Sting we saw in the 90s and the early 2000s. It's hard for me because um, there's certain guys I would love to see wrestle again, but I know it's never going to happen. And here's the thing. Sting is not the first to try to do this. I mean, Ric Flair came out of retirement in TNA, and I felt like that tarnished his legacy a little bit. Shawn Michaels came out of retirement after like almost 10 years, and I felt that the match that he was in tarnished his legacy a little bit. And so, um, guys, I get that he, he wants to wrestle and he wants to go out on his terms. I get that, but I mean, is it really worth risking your health? I just don't understand what Sting can gain out of this. And if he's gonna help put new talent over, then maybe that's the reward in the end. But man, if he takes one wrong bump and lands wrong just one time, it's going to be all for nothing. And I really hope Sting knows what he's doing. So fast forward a week later, Goldberg appears on a WWE interview show, The Bump. And he basically dropped the bombshell and hinted that he wanted to face Roman Reigns since they never got to wrestle each other at this year's WrestleMania because of all the craziness of COVID going on. I personally don't care for Goldberg. I loved him when he first made his WCW debut and went on that year and a half long streak. I thought that was awesome. But the more I found out about Goldberg and how much he despised the business and all the crap that he talked about the business, I really felt nothing but disdain for him. Maybe that's wrong on my part, but just felt like he always came across bitter and unappreciative and ungrateful for what the wrestling business gave to him and how it made him relevant for, future projects and all the things he was involved with afterwards. Not to mention, at this point in his career, he can't go. He gets blown up within 5 minutes, and he cannot go. It's bad enough that he almost injured The Undertaker a couple years back when they wrestled. But the fact that, he took the title off of Kevin Owens 3 years ago still does not sit well with me because Kevin Owens was in a prime run with the Universal title, and I thought he and Jericho were going to continue the feud over it, but then all of a sudden Goldberg shows up and he wins, and then he loses to Lesnar, and then Lesnar keeps it for God knows how long. So I really don't want to see Goldberg in the WWE ring. I think what Roman Reigns is doing now with the Samoan bloodline storyline, having Jay involved and having the rest of the locker room, trying to get respect out of them. I love that storyline. I personally think that storyline needs to culminate in The Rock coming back and getting involved. That's the only way it makes sense, and that's, to me, would be the big payoff. So, as far as Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, I really don't care to see it. Because Goldberg does nothing for me at this point in his career. Goldberg does nothing for me at this point in my life as a wrestling fan. And this whole Sting Goldberg thing, it almost correlates together. Because a lot of fans think that Sting should have gotten the treatment in his WWE run that Goldberg has. Sting should have gotten more epic matches. Sting should have gotten a WWE championship run. Sting should have been able to, go over on some people. Because that's the thing. Sting wrestled 3 matches in WWE, and he lost 2. Goldberg's won more than 2 matches in WWE since his comeback, or whatever you want to call it. So in a way, it almost kind of goes hand in hand. And if you were to ask me who I would love to see wrestle more at this point, it would be Sting if I knew he was 100% healthy and wasn't going to risk his health and his life. So I think AEW and WWE need to reevaluate what they're doing with these guys. Sting does not need to wrestle. Goldberg does not need to wrestle. It is reasons like this why the younger generation can't move forward and can't move on and can't get into the spotlight like so many of them deserve. I mean, if you look at the WWE roster alone, there are so many talented superstars that deserve to be in the main event, that deserve to be in the spotlight, that deserve to shine on a weekly basis. And they're not getting that time. And it's the same thing with AEW. It seems like the only people getting over in AEW are the elite members who happen to be executive vice presidents and the legends. Those are the only guys getting over. I mean, look at Taz, okay? Taz has Ricky Starks, Will Hobbs, and Brian Cage in his stable of Team Taz. You know what the sad thing about that is Taz and that stupid FTW championship are more over than the other 3 guys. And so there's a time for legends to be around, and there's a time for legends to step aside. I feel like it is time for some of these legends to step aside. Lance Archer, I love Lance Archer. He doesn't need Jake the Snake Roberts, and that is all due respect to Jake, because Jake is one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling. The Revival, the Revolt, FTR, whatever you want to call them, they don't need Tully Blanchard. And Cody, the Rhodes family, the Nightmare family, they don't need Arn Anderson. These guys can be mentors off screen, okay? Because it is the attention needs to be off them and on the younger talent. So that's kind of how I feel about this whole situation. I'm personally, as a wrestling fan and somebody who's been around the business on a local level and has studied the business and all of its aspects of it. It's time to let the younger generation shine. It's time to let the younger generation take over. Like I said, you want to be a mentor, you want to coach or train at the Performance Center or wherever AEW is doing their training, by all means, give back in that way. But there is no reason AEW needs to put Sting in the ring. There's no reason the WWE needs to put Goldberg in the ring. It's, to me, people say, oh, they draw money and there's still buzz about them. Well, what happens when they screw up in a match and the buzz is not good buzz? Nobody wants to see 2 guys past their prime in the ring not being able to be at their best. And I don't know what Sting can bring. We haven't seen him wrestle yet or move around in the ring. But Goldberg, he can't bring his best anymore. So it's time to hang up the boots. It's time to let go. It's time to give back in other ways and help the future grow. So I can go on all night long about this because I'm passionate about wrestling. I'm passionate about where I want to see wrestling go in the future. And so, like I said, I could talk about this for another hour and why this is a bad idea for both companies. So, but I'm not going to. So, I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts on the matter. Kind of want to hear what you're thinking about a 61-year-old and a guy in his, mid 50s wrestling in the ring. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know if you think it's a great idea or a bad idea. Maybe I'm just crazy with my opinions. I don't know. But I don't feel good about it. I don't feel right about it. As a fan, I'm very nervous to watch and hope to God that no one gets injured or things go smoothly. So, with that being said, my name is Hollywood Joe from Hollywood's World of Sports. This has been a special edition of Hollywood's Hot Topics. Be sure to find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, and all the other social media platforms out there. I hope you all are staying safe, having a happy holidays, and may you have a happy new year coming up. Remember, as always, controversy doesn't come without criticism.